Hello, everybody. My name is Ethan Bacal. I'm joined today by Nan Nguyen and Natalie Wang, and we want to talk to you about our study, which looked at immigrant density as a potential protective factor for diabetes in American neighborhoods. And so for our study, we kind of based the ideas of our hypothesis on two phenomena. The first being the healthy immigrant effect, in which immigrants tend to have better health behaviors and health outcomes compared to native-born populations. The second of which is acculturation, in which the longer an immigrant stays in the United States, the more the neighborhood impacts the health behaviors of immigrants. Now, what we want to look at is the opposite of acculturation, which is what we call the healthy immigrant effect spillover, wherein immigrants start to influence their neighborhoods, and the health outcomes and behaviors of a given neighborhood tend to be better with increasing immigrant density. And so for our study, we did a retrospective cross-sectional ecological analysis. I'm looking at around 32,000 out of the 41,000 US zip codes. Using data from the ACS, we calculated immigrant density for each zip code. And then using three variables, diabetes, obesity, and physical activity, we were able to find the outcome using data from the CDC's BRFSS questionnaire. And so we did a linear regression, and then in the future, we're going to be doing age and sex adjustments. For our predictive model, we thought, based on literature review, that the outcome of diabetes would be mediated by physical activity and obesity, with immigrant density being the overarching exposure variable.
And then after analysis, we found that as immigrant density increases, prevalence of diabetes decreases, and prevalence of obesity and lower physical activity also decrease. We also wanted to adjust for obesity and physical activity for prevalence of diabetes. So we ran a multiple regression model and ultimately found that even when we have immigrant percent plus obesity plus physical activity, there is still a negative correlation with prevalence of diabetes.
And so we identify immigrant density as a protective factor of diabetes, and the relationship is mediated by obesity and physical activity. The effects may differ depending on the racial or ethnic composition of the neighborhood. For example, a previous study has shown that living in communities with a high Hispanic concentration was associated with an increase in body mass index and higher odds for obesity for the non-Hispanic whites. Meanwhile, the opposite effect is observed for communities with high Asian concentration. So as a next step, we will disaggregate our results by race. And our study has three main limitations. The first one is the lack of individual level data, which means that we cannot account for effects of the zip code. Secondly, the BRFSS questionnaire is only conducted in English and Spanish, so immigrants who only speak a different language are left out. A third limitation would be the different levels of uncertainty in the data, which is actually a very common yet largely ignored issue in the past ecological studies. Therefore, we plan to spend more time after the program to develop a formal method for this.